Right. When you hear me talking to you, that means I'm talking to you.
Yeah, I understand that part.
All right.
It's the Tattoo Mentor Podcast.
We're going to do that one more time. You coughed into the...
Sorry.
Coughed into the intro.
I apologize.
Fucking rude. Okay, and silence.
It's the Tattoo Mentor Podcast.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Tattoo Mentor Podcast. From the Blanket Fort at Tattoos by Keith in beautiful Oceanside, New York. The Tattoo Mentor Podcast is about tattooing, pop culture, comedy, interviews with creative people, my personal thoughts and rants. If that's what you came to hear, you're in the right place. Enjoy the show. Gong. And here we are. It's the Tattoo Mentor Podcast, episode number 5. And we're here with Johnny Thief. Say hi, Johnny.
What's up, man? How you doing?
Hey, what's going on? Let me just pull your level down a little. We just blew everybody's speakers. No,
That is my dramatic theater voice.
That's very nice. Nothing.
And projecting to the back row.
Yes. For all 4 people listening to this right now, I hope you're getting the full effect. Yeah, no. So first of all, I just want to thank you. I had, not that you weren't my first thought, but I had something else planned tonight, and it fell through. And Johnny is on my list of guests, and was nice enough to jump in on little or no notice to fill in. So
you're talking Philip Lewis stuck in an airport somewhere.
Yeah, that sounds so much cooler. I'm going to go with that. So let's just we'll start off just with the basic kind of who, what, where, when. Let everybody know who you are, who is your daddy, and what does he do.
My name is Johnny Thief. I have been doing professional artwork since Reagan was in office. I was a jack of all trades, producing art in every field imaginable, from printing to screen printing to building sets for theaters to working for the music industry. I started tattooing in the year 2000, so that makes me about 13 years in, and it's been a hell of a ride. I am the owner of Seppuku Tattoo. We're just outside of New York City, out in dirty Jersey.
Cool, man. So just to summarize that, so Johnny draws stuff, and he does tattoos. But I've had the pleasure of knowing John for a few years, and his former shop mate Matt Lukish, who's also on the list to join us. So just real briefly, because I'm sure people who are listening to this who are fans of yours and fans of the shop, what went on there, why the split. Where is Matt now? And then we could just move on and swing back to you.
Okay, well, let me take it back even a little bit further to when me and Matt met.
Well, that's not what I fucking asked you. So why don't you follow directions and play nice with others?
Okay.
No, go ahead.
Well,
man.
it was a little bit part of the answer.
Okay, no, Jesus.
Me and Matt were
did you hear the word comedy in the introduction? I'm breaking your balls.
Is that what you were doing?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't see a little indicator noticing that Keith was doing comedy.
I forgot to press the button. Laugh here.
Matt and I were partners for 8 years, which anybody who knows tattooing ventures knows that's about 57 years. It's like dog years, basically.
Yeah, man.
It's definitely a marriage. I mean, some of the big enterprises, like the New School Collective, they lasted like 2 or 3 years. Studio 252. I mean, again, phenomenal artists, but a lot of partnerships don't work out for the long run. I think 8 years is a hell of a legacy. It's like I was looking at my resume when we were updating the website, and I was like, man, we've been doing this for 8 years. I haven't done any job in my life for 8 years straight.
Right.
It's like, I think that's a heck of a testimony. Matt moved because he wanted to buy a home. He's working out in Iowa, of all places.
Okay.
He's sick of the cost of living in the state of New Jersey, which is probably some of the most expensive in the entire United States. He's working with a phenomenal artist named Josh Fields. If anybody knows Josh Fields, he does beautiful, painterly, gorgeous tattoo work. So I have a big piece of his on my forearm. Their shop is Platinum Rose out there in Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
Awesome.
And they're very like-minded people. They both paint, they tattoo in a very painterly style. And he is just freeing himself up to do his artwork. So it's like, we're good friends. This isn't like a split. This isn't like, I hate you. Who gets the silverware? Who gets custody of the children? It's nothing like that at all.
Wait a minute. Give me a second. I have to clear my head of the image of a child that the two of you would have produced. Oh, my God.
On.
Jesus, help me, please, Lord.
Well, he wouldn't last that long. He would have gone straight into the oven. Yeah. They are juicy
but the good
tender.
news is he would have been able to count to 16. But so it was an amicable thing then, him going his way, you going your way. Yes or no?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Awesome. Well, it's good to hear when it happens good, because that's also a rarity, just as much as two guys staying together for 8 years.
Yeah, we, as a partnership, we barely fought. We fought rarely, and it was usually over stupid stuff like other people in the shop, which is beyond our control, because artists are freaks.
Sure.
Other than that, we had a pretty good run, I thought. It's like we handled each other pretty well. We got each other's backs. We both pushed each other. Again, it was cool because we moved and we got to look at, I had to rebuild the website. And I was looking at our progress from, the last time we built the website to what we did now. And I was like, boy, you can see some nice definitive jumps. When Matt first went to Savannah with me, his paintings looked like tattoo flash. They were heavy black outlines with magic marker on them and stuff like that, very bright primary colors. And now he's replicating a Venetian technique of painting, and, it's just blowing stuff out of the water. He's a fine artist at this point,
Right.
So it's nice to see that progress. And we went down that road together.
Very cool, man. Very cool. It's amazing that the Venetians were blind and they came up with such great techniques.
I thought you said comedy. Or is that Keith's uncle? Did Keith's Uncle Vinny show
That's
up?
Right. It's his not only comedy, but it's historical comedy.
Yeah, great.
All right. So off of that, let's get more into your history. The artists that I've talked to so far, I really like to, like I've said in a few interviews, to me it's pointless to have a podcast that's like, what needles do you use? It's really not helping anybody, and it's not. It really doesn't entertain or inform really as much as people might think it would. But what I'm interested in is the person, and you and I have hung out socially a few times, and. You have an interesting backstory, and I'd like to kind of do that. So, again, back to the basics. So, where were you born? Where'd you grow up? What'd your mom and dad do for a living? And, when did the art bug bite you-ish type story?
Okay, well, I'm old. I'm 45. I was born in 68, and I was born in Prospect Park, Brooklyn.
Nice.
We grew up in all the Guinea neighborhoods, and there was New York in the 70s, so it was tough. You would get jumped just going to the library or to the deli. You got jumped on the way to school. You got jumped on the way home from school. And then your mother jumped you when you walked in the door because she wasn't a nice person either.
Did you, Johnny, just a guess, you went to the deli a lot more than you went to the library?
Oh, man. You see, now I know why you do the podcast not in person. I know you're 3 hours driving distance from me, and there's a reason for that. I can understand that now.
Shit. Don't worry. I've actually gone to way more delis lately than libraries. I need to head back to the library, apparently. That's what my waistline is telling me.
I mentioned library because I wanted to make it clear that I didn't grow up and was a tough guy in New York in the 70s. It's
Nobody
I was a
assumed
little
that.
book nerd who loved to draw. I always loved art. I was always drawing. All the books, my childhood books, were covered in scribbles and drawings and things like that. I never not drew. I never not thought about being an artist. I never thought about being anything else.
Well, what did your dad do for a living?
My dad worked for American Airlines. Like his father, who was an immigrant, worked for American Airlines. So I think they were actually disappointed that I didn't work for American. And it wasn't like they were pilots. They were driving the shit trucks and the baggage trucks. And
right, but that whole kind of, I guess, like Depression era, like my parents, because I'm 45 as well, so kind of that whole Depression era security thing, like get the secure job. And I know, my father was definitely worried when, my father went into the ground still thinking I was trying to be a heavy metal drummer. So I just... I just hope he's looking down and realizes I achieved something, at least with one of my talents. I could support my my wife and my life.
To be honest, it is really damn cool to be a tattoo artist. I mean, other than the idiosyncratic parts of it, the idea that we're making our dime drawing and doodling on people and making as much as a psychiatrist is mind-blowing when you pull away from it, from the day-to-day.
Right.
Tattooing is a real blessing. I mean, absolutely. It employs so many artists who normally would be scrounging at like some stupid hack sweatshop job somewhere.
Right.
It's pretty brilliant.
Was the airline thing ever an option? And did you work there briefly as a teen or anything like that?
Well, my dad took off very early. I was 6. I only have 2 memories of him living at home, so he wasn't really around. He'd show up for the random weekend, and then he moved cross country, so I barely ever saw him.
And how was that? And what age was that? You were 6?
6.
So now, how does that? Now we've had other guys on the podcast, some from broken homes and some from solid homes. I mean, 6. That's an age where you're going to feel an effect. So how did that affect you and your relationship with with everybody still left at home? And
well, it was weird because in the 70s, not a lot of people were getting divorced.
No, not at all.
It was kind of like you went to school and you didn't want to talk about it type of thing, Well, I mean, I can't imagine that most people can even imagine that anymore.
Well, just to put it into perspective for younger people, in your, let's say in your elementary school class, I'm assuming at that age, there's probably 25, 35 kids. Mm-hmm. How many kids were from divorce? Just you?
Maybe me and maybe one other person.
Right. And no, because I want to put that into perspective as well for people listening, because there's a lot of young people listening that, it's almost flipped entirely. You got 35 kids and, 5 kids have solid houses, and the other 30 are, their moms are on their second marriage or what have you. So anyway, I'm sorry I stepped on.
No, not at all.
You were talking about the effects and how you kind of digested the whole situation at 6, 7 years old.
Yeah. There was no option of like, this is the business that you need to go into, because there really wasn't family. Like, my mom was nuts. I'm not going to get into it heavily because I don't want to bore people to death, and it's a tragic story. But, she beat me from infancy and only stopped after I outgrew her. And then, of course, she remarried someone who was much larger than both of us, and he took over.
Wow.
So, like, just surviving and just getting by and just trying to figure out New York in the 70s with a very abusive mother was well enough for a young child, let alone what the heck am I going to do when I grow up to make a buck?
Now, is that also like kind of a caveat of the whole old school New York thing? Like, nobody was calling Child Protective Services to help you out?
Oh, I wouldn't have. I would have killed for DIFUS back then, especially once I got to be a teenager, because the weird part is I don't know what the beatings were about when I was a kid, and I don't really care. It's all in the past. Can't change it anyway. But when I got to be 11, I did my first oil painting in my bedroom, and I got the shit kicked out of me because my mother thought I might spill the paint and ruin the carpet. It's really funny because you had to see the carpet. It was a 70s shag rug. It was bright blue and day glow green and like puke yellow. Like, spilling paint on it would be the best thing for this carpet, short of a fire. The idea that you're 11 years old, you think you created, this little Rembrandt that you painted, and then you're getting knocked across the house because of this carpet. Like the carpet was more important than anything, was a hell of a thing. And then I started getting beatings for painting, like specifically for like, you're not going to be an artist. And then I started painting at a theater, and you know who attends theater and gets on stage at theaters, and that didn't go over very well at all. Right. So I was actually kicked out of the house. I was beaten.
Well, hold on. You're going so fast, and you're going.
I'm trying to catch people up on 45 years.
Well, you know what? You're glossing over some things that I think could be really helpful to people listening who may be, unfortunately, going through similar things. And I see it. The reason I think you're an interesting interview is because it's a success story ultimately, and I think that's awesome.
Well, thank you.
So, without going too deeply, because you've already precursed the story by saying you didn't want to go too deeply, would you say was it just mental illness or drug abuse or alcohol abuse, a combination of them? Just in general, in broader terms, as you're comfortable with.
I'm comfortable with everything. I didn't want to bore the audience.
That's not boring, dude. It's life.
When I was younger, I have no idea what it was because it was about nothing. It wasn't like I was setting the woods on fire or shoplifting. Like, here's a story I tell to some of my people when they've got kids. I remember the first time I actually wrote out a whole song. I listened to it on the radio, and I wrote the whole thing out. I was like in kindergarten or first grade or something. And I was so proud because 70s lyrics are really weird. Like, what the hell is Stevie Nicks saying? I don't understand them today. So I was so proud, and I ran into the living room. I had my little Snoopy transistor radio, and I wrote out the lyrics to You Light Up My Life. And I ran in, I'm like, Mommy, look, I wrote this song off the radio. And because I was interrupting her night school studying, she beat me down 2 flights of stairs.
Oh, boy.
So, needless to say, I stopped showing my mother anything that I either drew or wrote at a very, very early age.
Not for nothing, dude. Like, if I was your dad and you came in the room with a Debbie Boone lyric, I might have smacked you a couple of times.
Well, yeah, I would have too. Like, I would have appreciated that. Like, if I ever do that, please just take a gun and
Johnny!
What are you doing?
Be a man, goddammit!
But, like, I would even talk to, like, her mom, my grandmother, and she's like, I don't know where it comes from. I never hit her.
Oh, well, that's interesting. So, wow, it seems, I guess you're so young, it's like, even if it was some type of vice, it might have been hidden enough that you didn't detect it.
No, I was very savvy about that. When she started bringing all her boyfriends around, I knew exactly how much beer they drank or how much pot they smoked. It was like a New York kid. I knew what pot was. I knew what drugs looked like. I was offered it quite often at school, She wasn't doing that stuff until she got remarried. And then she married this guy who came from an alcoholic family, and they just started climbing the ladder. They went from very soft drugs to very hard drugs to craziness.
Wow.
And it was just destructive on all kinds of levels.
Well, I heard you say a moment ago when you were wrapping up some thoughts that you got kicked out. So because it's funny because my next question was going to be, what did you do to get away? And did you have to hang till you were like 18 to kind of bust out, or were you just biding your time? And then I heard you say the words, "I got kicked out." So talk a little bit about how you got out of that environment and what came next for you, and what it's like to also kind of be an independent teenager without parents at that point.
Well, it was crazy because when you grow up in like Brooklyn and Queens, you've got everything. You've got transportation and lights and 24-hour food all the time. Well, generally speaking. Would she remarried?
I'm making every fat joke I can make because I'm about 300 pounds right now. You haven't seen me. I've probably put on about like 70 since we last ate at a diner, as a matter of fact.
Of course.
So I'm going to take all the chubby shots I can take because I'm having self-confidence issues right now.
We could just totally turn this article around, just talk about our weights.
I'll have you call in because see, now I know you haven't been listening because we teased we're going to be doing this the Fat Cast, which is going to be me, Angelo, Scott, we've all put on, like, damn, anywhere from 50 to 100 pounds, and it's just like, we're going to just have a big bitch sob session, a bunch of bitch tits sitting around talking about their favorite foods and how
shit, I'll jump on that, man.
I think we may have to get you involved, but I'm sorry, that was very rude of me. Okay, so we're talking about you by choice or not, you've now kind of been pushed into your independence at what age?
Well, the thing is that before we get to that, my mom remarries, and then he gets transferred to stupid New Jersey. So I move out from...
Is that near Passaic?
Stupid New Jersey. It starts at the border of New York and ends at the bottom by Cape May. It's all pretty stupid. Well, especially to a kid from the city, because she took us away from the family and any escape. Like, that's why I felt really trapped. I felt like at that point I had nowhere to go. I mean, you're used to sleeping under the planes, landing on your house, going to JFK, and then you move out to general stores and raccoons and possums and stuff like that, and all these rich brat kids who have everything they could ever want, and they have no idea what the hell you're going through. So I felt really, really trapped out there. It's like it was another, to a kid. Like, it wasn't like I could run away and go back to Rockaway Beach and pound on my dad's door or something like that.
Right.
I really felt like there were no human services. You couldn't really call the cops. And would you call the cops? Like, would you really still, like, as bad as it got, do you want to also be a rat, Like, I was in this old school ethics.
Our Italian New York ethic upbringing is the undoing of so many guys and girls from families from our era. Like, my mother and father had me late, so even though I'm 45, my mother is 85. So
wow.
she had me when she was 40. She thought I was the flu. So, but yeah, man. I mean, same thing growing up. I mean, we had, I don't know how much of my testimony I've given you about stuff that's going on, and my brother and his addiction and eventual death, and his wife and her mental illness and her addiction and eventual institutionalization, if that's a word.
Yes.
And just how delayed help and assistance and salvation was because of that old school, well, you don't call the cops on your brother, and you don't call the cops on your sister-in-law, and you don't report anybody to this, and you don't say that. And meanwhile, people are getting lumped up and, thrown downstairs and choked out, and kids are being chased around with friggin' coffee cups and knives and being beaten to an inch of their lives, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
but there's a lot behind that too, though, because as bad as that is, in a lot of ways, it's a lot more honest than this weird political correctness, let's call the cops at the drop of a hat type of thing. Because then, like, you don't have any fear. And now it's like all the idiots are ruling everything because they know that they can get away with it. And they don't have a fear of someone grabbing them by the shirt and saying, hey, buddy, let's go outside.
Well, it's a double-edged sword, I'll give you that. But you know what? They also have the fear of getting thrown in jail. My mother lived in fear of my sister-in-law for years after my brother passed because we allowed her to continue living in the house, because she had no money. She obviously had my mother's grandchildren, my niece and nephew, and we were, doing our best. Not to turn this back about me, but...
No, not at all, man.
But it's my podcast, so then I'll do
ahead.
that. But no, but in the end, really what saved my mom and eventually saved the family from pretty much living under the rule of this mentally insane person in their... she was a sociopath, was the fact that my mother finally got the nerve to call the police when she was being attacked, and we had her, removed, and she had to go get her own place and this and that. And eventually, authorities saved my nephew's life. That's how I wound up with him in my custody for 4 years. He was on the verge of, being killed 2 or 3 times. But I get what you're saying, because then we've also now bred this generation that isn't held accountable by anyone for anything.
No, it's ridiculous, and that's why everyone gets. And it sets up such a weird precedence because, like, it goes all the way to the top. the president can declare illegal wars and there's no investigation and they get away with it. And all the CEOs of all the banks do whatever the heck they want. They're found guilty in court of law. They don't serve a day in jail. And that trickles down to people and they just think, well, why should I care? And they treat people the way corporations raid. Like, it's turned into a social thing where people are just something to be stepped over at this point. And then, like, if you call someone on the carpet about it, like, hey, bro, that's not cool, they just kind of giggle, like, oh, I guess you caught me. Like, they're not apologetic at all. It's a really weird way to live. It's like, I'll take a good beating every day over this two-faced, social Darwinism thing going on. Screw that.
I'm sorry, dude. I went to the bathroom while you were
That's
talking.
fine.
Did you say something important while I was gone?
Is that more of your humor?
Oh, Jesus. When I heard the word
Or
president.
did you just have like 7 bean burritos last night?
It could be both. But I want to...
Another thing, though, let me say one other thing before I forget, is like,
God.
when you're a kid and growing up in that situation, you also don't know that that's wrong.
Right.
Like, you get the perspective, like, the way that I was finding out that was wrong is, like, I would turn on the TV, and, like, I was always surprised that TV parents weren't beating the living crap out of somebody, I was like, oh, my God, Richie Cunningham just trashed his cars. Tom Bosley's going to kick his ass. And he's like, Richie, that's not very nice. I was like, are you kidding me? And I realized, oh, well, maybe it's my situation that's a little different,
Looked in the mirror and you were like, damn, I don't have freckles. It's me, damn it. All these kids being treated nicely have freckles.
So what I'm trying to say is, like, it's not like I grew up all traumatized because I just thought, oh, well, your mom is someone who knocks you down a flight of stairs and your dad's someone who takes off,
That is true.
And that's the way everybody's dad is. And it's like, oh, it's not?
That is traumatized, bro.
Well, I'm realizing that now.
Yeah. Hey, whoa, what was that? You know what's funny, guys? I have Johnny on video and he doesn't have me, and he just glanced over like there's a sniper at the window.
No, I'm sitting in my studio and I'm looking out at the cars passing by.
Oh, nice. That's good. Thanks for paying attention. Appreciate that.
Well, I'm sorry. Someone might die right outside the window.
Yeah. So that's a good neighborhood you're in then.
Sunday drivers. Jersey drivers on their phones. Yeah, exactly.
So, okay, so I just you got up on the soapbox and I blanked out. So
how did I get kicked out of the house?
Well, no. It wasn't how did you get kicked out? It was now you're out. What's your first step? First of all, here's a question. You talked about speaking with your grandmother. So after you left that environment, or even during the transition, did you have other mentors in your life? Because obviously you weren't turning toward your mom or your biological father or any of your stepdaddies for advice. Who did you confide in, if anyone, and who was your kind of support system growing up?
Well, again, there was no confidence because you didn't rat, and I didn't think anyone cared. Like your teachers would only fight you about it. All the other students were so happy and going to Europe and stuff like that. So I wouldn't say anything to anybody. But my mentors came from the theater troupe that I used to work at. I used to work at a theater troupe. I started painting the sets, and then they threw me on stage just because I had Y chromosomes, and you don't have a lot of straight guys in theater, so you need all the bodies on stage you can get.
What now? So this theater, it was it through school, or was it a community
it was a local
theater?
It's still there. It's 40 years old. It's called Pax Amicus Theater in Bud Lake. Pax Amicus is peace friend in Latin. And that was kind of like a philosophy that they had, that this was a place where we come to create, and there's no bullying, there's no egos, there's no nothing. You come here to be a human being, and that's what they taught me. They taught me how to be a human for the first time in my life. Like, they taught me not just how to act and sing and things like that, but how to give a hug, how to show affection, things that were totally quite alien to me at the time.
How to touch a ding-ding.
That too. Actually, I think I learned that by myself. And maybe a car door. I don't remember. I try to black some of this stuff out. No, seriously, though, it was like ironic because I was back there recently. We just lost one of the people who actually constructed the place. And we had a memorial service for this person. And, it was kind of ironic that I learned more about being a man, like with capital M, from gay people wearing dresses than I did from my father or any other quote-unquote manly person that I had ever met who smacked me around,
Right.
But it was an incredible place to be able to go and paint. It's amazing to paint big. Like, in order to paint scenery, you have to, you're painting so fast to get across 30 feet before your paint dries that you're actually grinding the tips of your brushes down into wood stumps. And it's so cool. It's like you're dragging ladders across stage and you're sweating balls. And
so is it
amazing.
done on canvases, and do you use what type of paint? Is it a latex paint?
We used to go out and buy gallons of latex house paint, which is funny because we used to have to mix up really funny colors, like primary reds and blues, and they're giving us the eyeball, like, what are you going to do with this? They're thinking we're going to paint a house, like bright fire engine red or something like that. So you'd use latex house paint, which is just acrylic, basically.
Right.
Really big brushes. And it was hard to paint like that because you can't see what you're painting. You have to get away from it to see what you actually did.
Are you painting on canvas rolls or paper? Or
we would use muslin, which is a cheap version of canvas, and we'd stretch it across 2x4s and make
those sons of bitches took out the Twin Towers.
No, not those muslins. You can't paint on those. They don't stay still enough.
I've painted on a few. No, what? So muslin is for the uninitiated like me. What is it?
It's like a cheap canvas. It just comes in really large bolts, and we'd have people sew it together, and then we'd stretch it like you were stretching a canvas, but you're talking about like a 40-foot canvas.
Is it primed, or you had to do that, or you just go straight with the house paint?
No, we'd prime it. We'd prime it first. We could have up to 6 flats a show because we could fly the flats. So that was a lot of painting for like a 16-year-old punk, You projected, like you would do a little sketch, and then you could put that on a projector and project on there, and you'd draw on it with charcoal, so you had a guide to go by, and then you just went for it. And it was great. Like, painting a little canvas is a tremendous thing, but when you're painting 30, 40 feet, and you're actually sweating, and you're actually getting a workout doing it, putting your whole body into your brush, that's really, really cool.
Yeah, no, I can't imagine stepping back from something.
I miss it a lot, actually.
Yeah, well, since just as kind of a sidebar, since becoming a professional illustrator and tattoo artist and so on, what's the largest scale you find yourself working at now? Like, what's the largest scale piece you've done for your own body of work or for a show or anything like that since the set design?
Just maybe 3 or 4 feet on canvas.
Have you had any aspirations to maybe do something real crazy big, or it's just not practical, or?
I wish I could find the time. Like, I'm a really bad manager of my time. I'm the shop owner, and I work 6 days a week, so I'm always tattooing. I don't know how to take vacations at all. It stinks because, like, here where the shop is now, I'm sort of within driving distance of that old theater. Technically speaking, I could go back and do all that again.
What about going back and taking, like, an art director's position and getting a bunch of, young kids under you to paint the, get a bunch of young kids under you?
I definitely think about it. Like, I go back at least, like, 3 or 4 times a year for shows or just to hang out or something like that.
Don't just blow by my joke about getting young kids under you.
Oh, I thought...
No, but seriously.
No, the funny part about that, the reason I didn't get that joke is because we actually used to do a lot of children's theater, which sounds impossibly gay, until you do it. And then you realize that forget about Shakespeare, forget about Dustin Hoffman. You want to see if you can act in any way, shape, or form. Get in front of 300 kids and see if you can get them to shut up for 5 minutes. You get those little brats to be quiet and listen to words coming out of your mouth, then you're good. And forget about De Niro, It's like, I'll take a children's show any day over, Our Town or something like that.
Speaking of noise, your mic is, I believe, rubbing on your clothing.
Sorry.
For those of you who are listening, just while Johnny fixes his mic, the reason things may sound a little different is we're doing this remotely through Skype. I'm on Long Island, Johnny's over in Jersey, so if the sound quality is a little different, just bear with us. It's sounding pretty good in the phone, so hopefully it's sounding good for you guys at home. or in your car or wherever you listen to MP3s on the toilet.
Are you still on the toilet?
Oh, man.
That was like 15 minutes ago, man. What the hell are you... Exactly.
I'm eating too much of this cereal.
Oh, it sounds like you're not eating any cereal. A little fiber might really help you out there, buddy. You're not getting any younger.
Oh, shit. Don't remind me, dude. Let's not have the old... that's a whole other podcast. We could have the old guy podcast. Where
the old Bowels of Cork podcast.
Don't see, you had to say bowels. I was going to bring up that I went to my first urologist appointment. Have you had that pleasure yet?
Not yet.
Yeah.
Nope.
Well, let me tell you, when that guy's finger was in my ass, I wasn't thinking about children's theater. So,
yeah, well, I'm sure if that happens to me, I'm going to hit high A above C. So I might.
Hello.
Exactly.
So when you're painting these, let me get back on track here. When you're painting these sceneries, when you're painting the flats, I learned things. You can fly the flats.
Yeah.
The rain in Spain flies mainly on the flats.
I'm sorry to use goofy tech terms.
No. Now people.
No, you have a really cool pulley system with counterweights. So it's like all you do is you run backstage, you throw a lever, and then you just grab a rope, and the thing just launches itself in the air because the counterweights are balanced perfectly. So it's genius. It's so cool. And some of the effects that you can create. It's just the magic of theater.
Wow. So when you were describing the system, I thought we were still talking about the urologist.
Yes.
Pulleys and ropes, and he was nice, man. He was really cool. You know, you want to hear a funny thing? I'll tell you. Have you had your first urologist appointment yet, John?
No.
It's awesome. No. So, of course, I talked to my doctor first. You know, you go to your GP, and he's, oh, well, you know what, Keith, man, it's time. You need to go get checked. I said, all right, whatever. I said, what does the guy do? He goes, and my doctor, of course, I've had a relationship with the guy for 12 years. He breaks my balls. I break his balls. In other words, he knows me well. And he says, oh, nothing. He'll just cut off your penis. So I said, fuck it. I'm not doing anything with it anyway.
I was going to say, you're married.
Yeah, it comes out a couple of times a year at a party, and that's it. But no, thank God everything checked out. No problems. So that's something to look forward to. You're about due, brother.
I'm probably a little past due.
How many times a night do you get up to pee? Let's really bore the young kids.
12. Why? Is that bad?
It's close.
I just use the chamber pot, just saves myself the trip.
Dude, I drove to I was in lovely Jersey, and I went to the Jersey Fest model thing, and it's so funny because on the way there I was like, I had to piss like 15 minutes from the place, and of course, I'm in like left turn loop hell in Jersey.
Of course.
And I'm like, I'm peeing in this fucking Dunkin' Donuts cup. I don't give a shit. And I met up with a friend of mine over there, and I get out of the car, and I have two giant, like, big gulp containers in my hand.
Great.
And he thinks like I'm walking up to him with a drink.
Nice, yeah. No, I've seen that happen. I used to tour with bands, and they would use anything to pee in, anything not to stop. So, yeah, there's probably been a couple accidents, especially if the band is German,
I mean, at least in New York, man, there's someone you could pull over anywhere and find a bathroom. And maybe not a great bathroom, but something. But Jersey is like, it's hell.
No, Jersey is really dumb with their jug handles and their circles and their U-turns and their toll booths. And, yeah, you can't get anywhere in Jersey.
Oh, man. Whoever the city planner was like on acid.
It was Jackson Pollock. He did it from a helicopter with a turkey baster. It's just like, put a road here. Yeah, there you go. Beautiful.
So, but we digress.
Yes.
So the question that kept ringing in my mind during the theater story, there was a few, one I won't say, is so where were you living then? Did you have like roommates? Were you living under a bridge? What did you do to survive?
Well, half the time I lived at home.
But you weren't home, I thought.
Well, for half of it, like sophomore and junior year, I was home, and then that was it. Like, I couldn't do it anymore.
Okay.
Graduated as a junior, and I bailed.
When you say graduated as a junior, did you... Sorry, guys, I drifted away from the mic. Did you take extra credits? Did you get a full diploma?
Yeah, full diploma.
Oh, awesome.
I was an AP English sort of a person. I was gifted and talented, and I went into the guidance counselor, and I said, yeah, load me up, because otherwise I'm going to kill my parents in the sleep, and then I'm going to kill myself. I need to get out, and I need to get out now.
Right.
And I hated school, so like I wasn't... Jersey schools are so different than New York. In New York, they worshipped us because we weren't killing anybody.
Nice.
And then you move out to Jersey, and they're like, get to work, kid. And they didn't care. They didn't care about you at all in Jersey. So I was like, screw this. You don't care about me. I don't care about you. I'm bouncing. Give me my diploma. I'm out.
Right. And
so I got out, and things were really falling apart at the house. My stepdad was gone for days at a time.
Did you... Now, I'm going to briefly interrupt. At this point, because I have a similar... ironically, a similar story. I left high school... Instead of 11th grade, I finagled going to music school, and then later on got my associates and my high school diploma at the same time. Mm-hmm. So similar. But my impetus was that I had a goal. And my goal at the time was I really wanted to be a professional musician, and I was already doing so at night. So I felt like, why am I hanging out in high school? I'm packing my drums up and going to the bus with like hairspray in my hair and friggin' eyeliner on my eyes. You know, it was back when it was like metal glam hell.
I was like last Tuesday, right? Yes.
Yeah, it was just like Thursday, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But
right, I know
so
why you're not doing a video podcast, because how long it takes you to do your makeup. I know.
That's right. I have to hold my head upside down and get the coif. But yeah, no. What I'm saying is, so I had this passion. I had tunnel vision for being a rock drummer, and nothing was going to stop me, and blah, 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 blah. And that's why I went in and spoke to the principal and went to the college and did the paperwork and jumped through the hoops and blah, 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 blah. So I guess what I'm trying to ask is, now you've spent time at this theater, it's finally kind of giving you some satisfaction, some support, some satisfaction, some love, some outlet for your creativity. Was that any part of your push to get out of high school? Did you have a clear goal, I guess is what I'm trying to say, at the time that your parents like booted you out of the house?
No, it was the exact opposite.
Did they boot you toward the goal, or were you still pretty much undecided what you wanted to do with life?
No, the exact opposite. I knew what I wanted to do with death. Like, I was a suicidal mess at that point.
Right.
It stunk because my parents started doing drugs. I really wanted to rebel against that. But after the umpteenth time of like sleeping in the local park or not knocking on neighbors' doors because you didn't want to wake them up at 3 a.m, I'm like, if I'm going to take beatings for painting, for doing theater, for wanting to do West Side Story, I might as well be doing the things that I'm getting blamed for.
Right.
So I started doing drugs, and I wasn't doing them well. I didn't do them to experiment or to escape. I wanted to die. I was doing them in overdose doses. Right. And I was driving and doing really dumb, stupid things. I really wanted to die, and I didn't know how to do it. And I really didn't want to die, but I didn't feel like I had an option. Right. So it was a very dark, gloomy, at least from my perspective. It's funny because like a lot of my friends look at me at that time and said, yeah, but you were such a funny guy. Like everyone liked you. And like, I'm like, really? I felt like I was such a prick because I was so miserable all the time.
Right.
I'm glad I pulled it off, I guess I was very dysfunctional.
The sad clown.
Well, I could go through work, I could get things done and hide all of that stuff fairly easily, I suppose, because I guess I pulled it off. But I was miserable. And then I finally left home and was struggling, tried to go to art school for a year.
Did the people at the... Because I'm getting in my mental time machine and trying to be there. Did the people at the theater group know that you were abusing drugs, or did you never go there high, or did you just mask it well?
Well, I would never do drugs at the theater, of course, but
Well, could before maybe come in a little hummed up?
no, I would never go in wasted. Always very respectful and professional there. But by the same token, because I also loved that they accepted me, I wasn't going to burden them with my problems. Like, they weren't there to wrestle me away from my parents or provide me a place to sleep or something like that. I would have never have asked for something like that.
Right.
Because of the time period. Like, in the time period, you didn't ask for stuff like that. It was unthinkable at the time.
Right.
And that kind of sucked, because, like, it was clearly a way out. But I would never have asked. I would have never imposed. I would have never have dared. So I really felt, again, trapped and isolated out in Jersey, far away from family or anybody else that I would have known. And that's what kind of pushed the suicidal mania so hard, is I really didn't see a way out at all.
So now, push comes to shove, no pun intended. You're out of the house, and you're out of the house. You still got one foot in this theater group. You're obviously depressed and anxious and doing drugs, and what gave? Like, when did something switch? When did you either hit bottom or hit a wall or have an epiphany? Did it happen? When did the next transition take place?
It wasn't one thing. It was a bunch of things all at the same time. I left home and then moved back to try to go to the Joe Kubert school.
So how long were you out of the house?
Like a year and a half, like 16 to 18.
And where did you live?
At the Choreographers, 25-year-old woman from Dallas, Texas, who had moved out to make it big on Broadway and was working with us at the theater. Mm-hmm. I was living with her and her boyfriend in Bud Lake, right across from the theater.
So they kind of, and you were 19?
No, still a minor, still 16.
Okay. And so they kind of took in, and did they require you to pay any rent? Or?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was crashing on a little cot. I was working at a restaurant, and we'd go and rehearse and paint and do all kinds of things. Little happy family for a minute there.
So you had a day gig too. You did some work at a restaurant. What'd you do? Did you bus or?
No, I cooked.
Oh, you were a cook.
I'm Italian. I'm born cooking.
Nice.
It's in our genetic makeup, among other things.
How long did you do that for? And did you enjoy it at all, or was it just?
I loved it. It was weird because it was dangerous. Have you ever cooked?
Fire hot.
No. I'm talking about like the people who work there. I mean, like, I had at least one ex-con who would routinely throw the kitchen knives at us, like the knives that can cleave a rib roast in half with one slice. Someone tried to dunk me in the deep fryer, and they were serious about it. Like, if I wasn't strong enough to stop myself from going into the fryer, I would look like Two-Face right now.
Yeah, hence the hairdo, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, I thank you very much. No, seriously, like, it was dangerous. I almost died a couple times in that kitchen, but it was great because it was like a lot of work. And then when you got a compliment to the chef, you were like, God damn, I really earned that. Whereas like, someone compliments my art, and like, I've always done art. Like, art is like breathing to me. It's like, oh, you breathe really well. So it's like, I don't receive the compliments that well, But when I like got a compliment to the chef, I was like, yeah, damn straight, bitch.
And then luckily for you, one day Jason Statham walked in and recruited all the other guys for a bank heist.
No, seriously, like that goofy Pixar movie, Ratatouille. It's like that, man. It's like everyone in the kitchen is whacked.
But isn't that like every bank heist movie? One of the guys is like an ex-con who's working in a kitchen on like work release, and the guy's
probably,
like, dude, you don't want to fucking be here.
So I'm not an expert.
So, all right. So now you're taken in. You have some benefactors. You're sleeping on the cot. You're working. Cooking, you're in the theater group. Okay, so how does the whole now when you have the thought, hey, let me go check out Kubert School, are you, and I'm not saying this as a joke, are you high? Is this when you're still abusing drugs?
Yeah, I was very suicidal, but of course I loved comics, and
sure.
the Joe Kubert School's right there in Dover. So I sent a portfolio, and when you go to interview, you interview with Joe Kubert. We don't have him anymore. We just lost him last year.
Yeah.
But that was amazing. And then you get accepted and like your head explodes. You're like, wow, you're kidding. So with that wow, you're kidding moment, I moved back home to afford to be able to do it.
Was there like a sit down?
Yeah. And I thought everything was going to be cool. Like, hey, I'm a grown up now, and like I'm going to school, and like I'm an adult. And
Mom was like, I thought we were finally rid of you.
And it just got worse.
Oh,
like my
Jesus.
stepfather beat me more. I was doing a lot of my homework in the Rockaway Mall parking lot in the middle of the night with a T-square and an illustration board on my lap, trying to get through that first year, and it sucked.
That's a hard one to talk to the patrol car about. They pull up and shine the light in the car.
They didn't do that back then. They didn't have security back then.
Son, what are you doing? It's a T-square. And how do you smoke meth with that?
I'm doing life gestures. Leave me alone.
But okay, so it was so. I'm, again, I always get cinematic pictures of stories when people tell them to me, and I'm picturing, the kitchen table scene where Johnny talks to mom and abusive stepdad about moving back in and going to Cubert school. Was it conditional? What were the conditions that you could move back in, or was it not like that? Did they not lay out conditions?
I'm not going to lie. I don't really remember because so many of those memories are blackened out.
Sure.
They're darkish. They're interlaced with I remember there was this one fight me and my mother had where I really lost it, and I lifted her up off the floor by her throat.
Yeah,
And
whoa, easy.
it was like one of those moments where like I know there was someone else in the room at that time and put their hands on my shoulder and said, you let her go and you get the hell out of here. And I did. And if that voice hadn't happened, I would have crushed her larynx, and we would not be talking right now.
Wow.
So it's like there was interlaced with a lot of moments like that. So it's like I've kind of sort of blocked it out. I haven't really even opened those things until very recently.
So you were, again, I would assume, even though you're home, you were probably using and hiding your drug use. And
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. No, I mean, and it's funny. I mean, there are people who will hear a story like that and be completely shocked and appalled. And then there are people who have been in the environment. My brother put his hands around my neck and had that look in his eye where I just said, who the fuck is this guy? This ain't my brother. But
Absolutely.
he was fucking losing it. He was just losing it. And then, unfortunately, not long after, he wasn't with us anymore. So, but so let's call that rock bottom, even if it wasn't, for time's sake, because we're just about we'll wrap up in 10 or 15 minutes, and I want to get to the happy sides of the story. So did you go to Cubert? Did you complete Cubert? And if so or not, what was the slingshot effect of your next season of life, for lack of a better term?
Okay, I did 1 year of Cubert out of 3, and I hated to leave, but I knew that I wasn't going to cut it. Not because I wasn't good.
Yeah, I'm surprised to hear you say that, knowing your level of ability. What was it that you couldn't cut? Was
I
it
couldn't
the
live
discipline?
At home. I couldn't live at home. I couldn't do it. Like I was again either going to kill myself or kill my parents.
Going there came with home.
Yes.
And there was no way to do it otherwise.
Not really.
That's a shame.
So I left. I had a breakup. I kind of hit my wall.
You had a relationship going on at this time?
Yeah.
What was the dude's name? No, seriously. Wow.
His name
People,
was Henry.
if you could have saw the face that he just made.
He was a poet.
Totally did not think that was funny at all.
Well, I'm sorry.
All right. Sorry. Hit a nerve.
Well, I mean, you're just lobbing those softballs right across home plate. I mean, I was like, all right, I'll let that one go by. What are you going to do?
Seriously, though. So now that adds another crazy dynamic, though, to actually be in relationship with another person, all kidding aside, male, female, doesn't matter. But obviously, female.
Don't throw that disclaimer in there. It's so patronizingly. ...
But So now, the obvious question again to someone who has been through the kind of, I would never assume to say this, the same situation, but in similar circles. Was she a user as well? Were you guys using together?
Exact opposite.
Oh,
Total
my
rich
God.
girl, never saw a drug in her life.
What a nightmare.
Mommy and daddy drove her to the theater in their Jaguar.
Oh, so you met her through the theater thing.
I met her in Peter Pan. She played Wendy, and I was a terrible pirate. And I got to kidnap her and tie her up, and it was love at first ravage.
Peter Pan was a dude, man. But
So yeah, we did a lot of theater together. But she was ultra rich girl, and I was ultra scumbag guy, and somehow the sum of our differences totally made it work. I'm still in touch with her. She's an amazing person. We are amazing friends.
Awesome.
We had a good 3 years where we had that childhood sort of romance, and then we all went separate ways. But we've always been in touch. I just took her to see Rocky Horror last year at that theater. It was like a little reunion. It was cool.
Oh, awesome, man. And
Yeah.
So did she know about your use, or did you hide from her, or were you honest
She
with her?
didn't know the extent of it. Like, I
Okay.
wasn't going out like, yeah, I'm doing this. But I would share, exactly the depths of what I was going through.
Sure. Yeah,
And she knew. And she loved me more for it. She knew how much being in a relationship meant because of that.
Oh, my God. What kind of car does she drive now?
Probably the same thing. Her parents are probably still buying her cars.
Oh, my God. That would irk the shit out of me.
Yeah.
Just please tell me she bought the popcorn when you guys went to see Rocky Horror.
Well, let's move along the song. No, because it's fucking boring people in high school.
No, this is awesome, dude.
Relationship. Who cares?
Everybody has relationships, and they care. It's very interesting. The okay, so the love of your life rejects you. What happens next?
No, she went to school in London. She started doing a semester at Oxford, and I just felt abandoned as hell, and the carpet was out from under me, and I couldn't deal anymore.
So all kidding aside, was that the reason for the breakup? She left to go to school?
Yeah.
And was the opportunity there to continue a long distance relationship, but you couldn't deal?
Yeah, I mean, and 5,000 miles over the ocean.
No,
and,
yeah.
Yeah.
So it wasn't, all I'm getting at before we do move forward, is it wasn't about your trials, tribulations, drug use, career choice. She had an opportunity, and because the assumption would be that she
kicked me to the curb, fed me to the wolves.
Who wouldn't assume that, considering all the the lead up to the fact that you had a relationship was all this stuff that's difficult to deal with as an individual, let alone someone to be with you through that. I mean, I'm married to Terry now, but when I was in the deep throes of depression and I went through my period where I almost committed suicide, she broke up with me, and I hated her for a long time for it until I realized and understood, man. You know what? In retrospect, I would have done what she did, because who the fuck can deal with that?
Yeah. No, I would have never in a million years ever asked her to do something like that or expected it. Like,
right.
I mean, of course, I take it way too far the other way. I can't receive anything at this point. I'm working really hard at that, to learn how to love myself and appreciate things like that.
You gotta love yourself. Try underhand. It's fucking awesome, dude. It's
Very
like
funny.
It's like a whole
You're talking
other
to a
person.
gentleman with the words "ugly fuck" on my knuckles. It's trying to undo a lot of this stuff is some of the hardest things I've ever done. It's like painting and art is easy. Trying to learn how to look at myself in the mirror and like what I see, very difficult.
Right. Vaseline on the mirrors, dude.
Yeah, well.
It helps. So, all right. So your girl goes off to school. You go to Cubert, and I'm sure in a year you were able to showcase your talents to some people and create some relationships. Did you make some positive connections at Cubert, and did that experience or any experience over that year slingshot you into the next kind of stage or season of your life as an artist?
No, I would blow a lot of those off, although I learned a lot. Like, Kubert School is a boot camp for art. If you're serious about doing art, definitely sign up because they will work you to death. And it's great. It's not like these frou-frou art schools where it's like, draw what you see, draw what you feel. It's like they're breathing down your neck, and it's like, you have deadlines, you have 50 other people looking for your job, and your power's about to be turned off. How do you finish this? and it's genius. It's totally great. It prepares you for the real-life world of creating art and making money.
I haven't met a shitty artist that's gone to Kubert School.
Not to mention just the ambiance of, like, you're working with a Milt Neal who helped found the Disney Studios, or Mike Chen who created Robotech, and you're just, like, as a drooling fanboy going, oh, my God.
Right.
But it's still pretty cool. You're being lectured by Chuck Jones. Yeah, you're like, oh, my God, that's Chuck Jones.
It's comic and animation fantasy camp, essentially, but, you know, with a lot of reality. Like you said, they from what I understand, they don't pull any punches over there.
No, they're the real deal. They're amazing. And it's weird because back then it wasn't that accepted. This is before Who Framed Roger Rabbit turned animation on its head again. This is when comic books were still kind of geeky and nerdy, and not a lot of girls were there. There were only 2 girls in the whole class.
Right.
Real art school of doom type of atmosphere. You know, people weren't making a lot of livings doing comics. This is why they trained you for the rest of the world, so that you could still go out and work for magazines and newspapers and everybody else.
Yeah, back in the old days, we used to print things on paper, kid. And
long before computers.
George Bridgman walked by, and he was chewing a cigar, and he spit tobacco juice on my piece. And he said, hey, what do you think of that, Buster?
Snake type, like letter set type with an X-Acto knife, and, you know, entire magazine layouts just by hand. Like, nobody does that anymore. You do it in 5 minutes in Photoshop.
Little Johnny's doing press type, and I came by and I gave him the business. See?
Stat camera operations, cutting ruby lith for thousands of hours. All old school.
Very cool. Well, now you are boring people. All right, so let's move on.
You.
See, like high school romance, interesting, ruby lith.
Really? Like.
Okay, so now we have passed the 1 hour mark. So bring us into the happy days.
You know, I had a 25-year-long career after this.
Yes. No, you know what it is, man? To be honest, I like for the listeners to hear that everything isn't just handed to the people that they admire. That, you know, you didn't fall ass backwards into becoming a popular poster artist and tattoo artist and having these accolades. You know, no one handed it to you. You didn't come from anything where you just said, oh, I want to be famous. Because that seems to be the mentality of unfortunately of like the creative egg right now, is when, you know, kids are deciding to be artists or musicians or, you know, some creative bent. It's not about mastering their craft. It's about being famous. And fame can come extremely easily, whereas, you know, mastering your craft is nothing but fucking hard work and dedication and busting your hole and beating your head up against the wall on top of the whole backstory. And when people hear their heroes talk about what was going on in their lives while they were doing all this hard work and development on their art, I think it gives them hope that, you know what, your environment does not have to dictate your outcome.
Well, that's definitely true. But it's also very easy to become famous now,
right?
Because of the internet.
Oh, I'm talking specifically that I'm aiming this. The reason that the podcast is called Tattoo Mentor is not because I'm going to be on mentoring people on how to tattoo, like, you know, a separate program I have that's called Tattoo Mentor. But
right.
This is basically, hey, here I am. I'm a 45-year-old guy. I'm old enough to be most people's parents who listen to this shit.
And probably are.
And I'll take it. I mean, I look at the gray in my beard and in my hair in the morning, and I'm proud of it because, you know what? A lot of people I came up with are dead. Mm-hmm. And it may sound morbid to some, but to me, it's just, hey, you know what? It just means that, not to get theological or too spiritual or too heavy, my work isn't done here yet.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But that aside, yes, I'm speaking specifically to. Have they come up with a term yet for the internet generation, the social media generation? I know there was Xers and Wires, and what the fuck is this generation called?
That's another
just
podcast because I'm
douchebags.
going to launch on the soapbox about that.
Generation douche.
Well, the thing is that this generation, it's a funny thing that you say, like looking for fame as a goal, like that. You weren't going to be a comic book artist and be famous in the 80s. Comic book artists were creeps, It's like no one. Very few famous names back then. I mean, a handful, of course, like the Ramirez and the Neil Adams and people like that. But the majority of comic book people were definitely behind the scenes, like stuntman type people. You didn't do it for fame. It wasn't even an option back then.
Right.
You did it for the love of the craft,
right?
Or the telling of the story, or whatever it was that was like lighting your fire. But fame, it wasn't even an option back then.
Dude, I love those old photos of any comic book house or animation house where it's the fucking guys in their slacks and ties and hats, and once in a while they've got their sleeves rolled up, and it's like these are fucking men doing work.
Yeah, a big pile of cigarettes and
now you
thermos of coffee.
Look at any picture of a group of fucking creatives now, and it's like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, a bunch of hipster curly girls. Yeah,
it looks like fucking. It looks like a bus station in fucking Pittsburgh. I was talking to Pooch about what it's like to be judged as a black dude on the scene, as an African American tattoo artist, and I said, man, how funny is it you get judged for wearing like a flat brim and a hoodie, and you're surrounded by white dudes who look like they're on fucking Duck Dynasty, and no one has a fucking problem with it. And he's like, yeah, man. He's like, what the fuck? I'm like, I know. I mean, it's somewhere down the line, it's like, I know, what do they say in history? Like John F. Kennedy eliminated hats because he was like the first president not to wear a hat. But when did the fucking society go from like guys and men and women like dressing and caring about their fucking appearance to like just looking like a bunch of fucking bums? I remember like if I wore these clothes when I was like a kid, like living at home kid, my mother would have pulled me back in the house by my ear and completely redressed me. You're going out there and you represent me, and you're not going to wear that shirt pulled out and your fucking hoodie and this and you know what I mean? It's just so funny, like the whole. I don't know.
Well,
now I'm ranting.
No, you're ranting, but it's going in the same direction that we're talking about. Like this generation is kind of dropping the ball. Like their job as their generation is to screw with our generation. That's a job.
But wasn't that our job?
Socrates. Like you have to screw up the status quo. They're not doing anything. They're not creating new music or setting fire to anything or creating a new political environment. They're just sitting there on their phones and playing PlayStation. And I know it's hard to rebel when you're borrowing mom's Range Rover and you've got her platinum card in your back pocket. But by the same token, it's like we've also made it acceptable to be a 45-year-old child. Like you can walk around looking like a Peanuts character and do nothing but play video games and talk about Warcraft and your next cosplay project. And it's like you don't see a lot of Humphrey Bogarts going around, rolling up their sleeves, lighting a cigarette, and talking about the manly sacrifices they have to make to go forward.
If I wasn't such
I miss that actually. Like I've started doing. This is a real tangent, but I started doing manly sort of things. Like I collect straight razors now, and I straight razor shave, not because it's a better shave, which actually it is.
How many times have you nicked your taint?
No. I have a lot of mirrors. And Jose gets behind me, and he takes care of it when I can't. I get a little kick in my
Mr. Johnny, I'm a clamp.
Ramon, fetch me my razor. No, seriously, because I just I got to hear all this whininess. Like, can I take this drawing home because my mom needs to approve this tattoo? It's like, bro, you're 25 and leaving for the Marines. Are you kidding me? So I go home and I strap on a straight razor and shave myself and feel like my grandpa or something like that. And remember the days when men were men,
Oh my God.
So I miss that. I think that's a big part of where we are as a country. Like, where's the backbone? I hate to say testicles because I don't want to leave the ladies out of this, but where's that attitude? Where you can stand up and like, all right, enough. Let's put the childhood things away for a second. It can't be 24/7, 365 adventure time. You know, it's like sometimes it's time to be a man. Stand up and be a man.
I think it's that this immediacy of the internet and social networks and Twitter and Facebook, and just this immediate gratification, instant gratification, and also the shortcuts to fame, quote unquote, are just right there. Everybody knows the shortcuts to fame. You know what I mean? It's like, get on a show and be the dick guy, and you're going to be the famous guy.
I think it's deeper than that, because like one of the things that drives me nuts about this whole TV thing and the fame thing, of course, I could also rant about the corporations and who owns these people, which is another podcast, but why do you value that? Like, who cares about fame? When you tattoo a famous person, they bleed like everybody else. They squirm in the chair. They ain't no different.
They're usually the worst clients.
I don't understand why people worship fame. Like, why is that an important thing in your life?
You know why, Johnny? I'm going to tell you why.
Okay, you tell me.
Because it's just that big fucking hole in every person that they're trying to fill that says, someone likes me.
I fill it with pie.
Nice, yes, and you fill it with pie, and you put peanut butter to seal any air holes around the.
Oh my God, we got to write a recipe book on how to fill the hole.
Yes. But that's what it is, man. It's this whole like love me, love me, love me, love me thing. It's like, oh my God, I got 250 likes on my McMuffin this morning. It's like, how the fuck do you pay your rent with that? But
oh my God, tattoo artist filling the whole recipes. Oh my God, that's our first book. That'd be amazing.
Did you ever suck the jelly out of a jelly donut? And then you fill the inside with chocolate swirl ice cream. Oh. When's the last time you saw Fatso? How good is that movie?
Now you're really going way back. Like, people are going to be like, what? Who's in that?
Get the honey, Junior.
I don't even have clients who've seen The Godfather yet. Do you want them to see Fatso? Come on.
Well, they'll see it when they redo it with Mike Epps and Ice Cube.
Great. Some executive is writing that down right now. Yeah. It's like, remake Godfather.
Yeah,
Thanks.
As soon as we're done doing Jaws with Jamie Foxx.
Remake Godfather with Nicolas Cage. Thanks, Keith. Thanks for ruining that one.
I think you outdid me. All right, we're at an hour and 12, so encapsulate 25 years into the next 5 minutes. Go.
Okay.
No, but seriously,
moved to Florida. Yep. Tried to kill myself. That didn't work out.
How?
Totally.
I'm curious. What method?
Hey,
did you?
You said encapsulate.
No, I'm a dick.
Totally turned my life around. Got clean up off of drugs. Developed a work ethic.
Well, now see, these are parts that you can't blast by.
Oh yes, I can.
No, you can't. Did you? Now, for me, I remember the day vividly that I thought about killing myself and was ready. I didn't want to live another day, but I, thank God, hadn't gotten to the point of a plan. Did you get to the point of a plan? Did you know what you wanted to do? Was there an attempt?
Yeah.
Was it an overdose, or did you? Is this something you could share with people, or no?
What I was going to do is I was going to drive cross country and disappear, because I didn't want to do it and then like either fail or even leave a body. Like, how creepy is that like now someone's got to deal with that? Like, I didn't want to put that in anyone's face. Right. I didn't want to leave a note, or like, the reason I did this is I just kind of wanted it all to stop. So it's like, I figured I'll go cross country, I'll take the plates and the VIN numbers off my car, and then I'll drive it like 120 miles into something, and that'll be that, and hopefully no one be able to ID me as long before computers and stuff like that. That was at least the plan. And hopefully, like, I would just disappear. And people are like, I wonder whatever happened to that kid,
Right.
But driving cross country kind of like was like opening my eyes. Like, wow, big country out here. A lot of the world I haven't seen yet.
Oh, so you actually got in the car,
yeah.
started to drive with this very Roadrunner Wile E. Coyote plan to kill yourself.
I packed everything I owned into a little Ford Escort with a stick shift and headed for Key West, Florida.
An Acme Escort with a bale of dynamite and a gunpowder.
I figured if I drove off the 7-mile bridge at like 120 miles an hour, which is as fast as that car would ever go.
If I drove right into that tunnel, was it a tunnel? There was a paint can right next to it that said tunnel paint. Oh, the irony. My set painting days have killed me. A demonic set painter painted a tunnel on the side of a mountain. I'm sorry. Oh, my imagination.
So it was great because like that was part of the first step of like, wow.
You kind of got away. You started clearing.
Yeah, I figured, well, if you're going to kill yourself, like, don't you have nothing left to lose? So why not, like, take some big risks and some big gambles? So it's like, that was part of the clearing. I also had a very spiritual experience. Again, not to get too theological or spiritual on the show, but, like, I totally turned my life around. In doing so, I also felt like a creep for all the drugs and all the selling I might have done and all the evil things I might have done to other people. And I spent the next 7 years doing a lot of volunteer work, like a lot of balancing the scales and paying back and things like that.
Right.
That's still a portion of my life, but I don't talk about it ever.
Did you go to any type of formal 12-step or recovery, or did you?
Not for myself. I went to many of these meetings to testify, to give my testimony and help encourage people, but I never needed it because I wasn't addicted to drugs. Like, I was doing them to die.
Right.
Once I stopped wanting to die, the drugs went right away.
Sharing your testimony probably did a lot more for you than you realize, because it's one of the most powerful things you could do is share your testimony with people. Mm-hmm. And again, it is a spiritual thing, and I know some people, balk at spiritual thoughts and put whatever wrapper around it you have to digest it, because it is a very positive thing.
But you can also do it by keeping your mouth shut, too. And you could just go out and do. Like, if you just go out and feed people, you just do an action, it's amazing how much comes back to you. And, like, that's not why you do it, of course. You go out there to be selfless, and you do it for everything else.
Testimony on the top of a building with a megaphone is a douchebag. Testimony in a meeting, that is an act of service.
Yeah.
So I'm with you, as far as that. And, I think... we're going down scriptural roads here, but doing your acts of kindness in secret, I think, are way more spiritually effective than, parading them out and being like, look, I'm doing the like with that fucking new thing, man. I'm doing the ice bucket challenge. It's like, pay the fucking money, you douchebag.
It also separates the men from the boys, though, so to speak, too, because like if you're going to do that on TV, on Fox News, that's an easy place to do it. You do it inside of a quad in a maximum state penitentiary and you're surrounded by cop killers and rapists, then you better know what you're talking about.
Is it wrong that I'm hard right now?
Hmm?
So,
I'm calling your wife. Where is she?
we already have an agreement that she will never listen to these.
It'd be so great if she comes in next time and she's dressed in an orange jumpsuit.
Yeah, the funniest thing is
with a bar of soap in a towel.
when the first when I got the first contact about my interview falling through, she said, "Oh, I'll just go in and talk to you." I was like, "No." I was like, "You obviously have not listened to any of them." I said, "Because there's so much ball breaking going on." I said, "That's what I need. I need to talk to you for an hour on my podcast, break your balls, and then have you fucking snap on me, because I'm putting it up regardless. If I have to, it's going up. It's going to be evidence at the trial."
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to sit here and pretend. We know she's the boss. But,
duh.
Yeah, if I knew I was going to be getting pushed around by a 5'0" little Irish broad, I would have volunteered much sooner. But,
yeah, I was going to
say. Things would have started going well sooner. So speaking of which, so now you're on this cathartic journey cross country, and starting to kind of, cobwebs are starting to clear, and your inner Johnny is blossoming. What happens next? I this is quickly becoming a two-parter, and I really, really am enjoying it. But if we could find a good, if we could kind of find a good stopping point on an up note, I will have you in for a part two.
Well, the career path is very long, so maybe we should dodge that.
We do want to hear about that, but let's so. At what point do you? I mean, what happens? Do you turn the fucking car around? Is it like vacation?
No,
you get
I
to the
stay in
place
Florida.
and the wheels fall off, and you're like, all right, this is where I live.
No, I stay in Florida.
Okay.
And I live down there, and I find a whole new group of people, and we are all very like-minded. Like everybody else around me has also gotten off of drugs and gotten out of prostitution, and we do a lot of great things. Like we actually walk the walk. We'd stay out all night. Actually, let's land on this. Is like that's how I get my goofy stage name, nom de plume of Johnny Thief.
Okay.
We started doing a punk rock fanzine because I was very into punk rock at the same time. I always do things backwards. I wasn't into punk rock when I was doing drugs. I was doing theater when I was doing drugs. I was a thespian. Then I get clean, and then I get hardcore punk, and I shave my head, and I'm wearing combat boots and all this stuff. And, you know, the energy of punk also helped motivate me as to doing the right things. I thought the two married very well. So we did a punk rock fanzine called Thieves and Prostitutes. And we would hand those out all night long up and down Miami Beach and in the clubs and in strip joints and head shops and wherever we could put them to let people know that you could be hardcore and you could be clean at the same time. And
So what was it, like a straight edge zine kind of thing?
Oh, yeah. Like real, to be honest, heavy-handed and a little preachy. Because when you get clean, you get really like, I can't believe I'm not dead. And you just want to scream it to the world. You get very, very over-emotional, of course. And we were jerky about it in times. We were very not too subtle.
Yeah, but, you know, you got the whole DIY punk rock force behind it. So it's kind of what it should be. You know, it should be aggressive and it should have attitude and it should kind of... if it doesn't flaunt in the face of something, then is it really punk? You know what I mean? It's like...
Yeah.
But no, that's extremely cool. That's something I didn't know. Do you have any of the original copies of the zines? Did you retain a portfolio of the publication?
Yeah, I have a bunch of them, which are interesting because I've got like letters in there from like Marilyn Manson.
Wow.
We got into like a letter writing war before he was famous because his band was trying to sell drugs to some of the people that we had gotten clean and detoxed.
Is that allegedly? Should I disclaimer?
No,
allegedly?
Absolutely not. I've got it in writing.
Okay.
I still have his letters from back in the old days.
Does he admit in the letters that he was doing this?
I'm not 100% sure, but he sure wasn't denying it.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Tattoo Mentor podcast does not take responsibility for the statements of Johnny. I'm going to say allegedly. Is there any chance that you will, I mean, especially now in the digital age, maybe scan them and turn them into like ebook or something? It sounds like something people would be kind of cool to collect.
I might be saving them until... one of the many books I have on the shelf in the library in my head that I should be writing includes a book talking about my career.
AKA,
I want to write a lot of
see
stories
them.
because there's so many weird stories about how I almost died doing the things that I did just to create art or make a buck. So I think that, like, I don't want to do a book where it says The Art of Johnny Thief. I hate those books that say the art of. I kind of want like half art and half a like, this is how crazy I went in order to create this stupid thing.
Right.
So that book is going to happen sometime before I die.
And in very Monty Python fashion, an anvil falls on his head right now. But,
that would be great. I wish things like that would happen. Here, Johnny, have a cigar.
In my head, they happen all the time. All right, so now you're down in Florida. You've pretty much adopted this straight edge mentality, and you've found like-minded people. You're putting out your zine. It seems at this point, correct me if I'm wrong, if you're centered more around music than art in your efforts. Is that incorrect?
Yeah, because the zine, of course, is all art. We're drawing the covers. It would eventually become a full comic zine. Like, we'd switch from doing a typical zine with interviews and stories.
You had sequential art in the zine?
Not at first. We started building on that. Actually, I think I did like a one-page comic, by the end, it turned into like a ripoff of Love and Rockets. Like it was all comics at the end.
Oh, wow, cool.
Yeah. Well, it was like the idea of like, I'm going to freelance this and maybe shop it around to see if I can get other work.
Was it straight up pen and ink? Was it black,
pen and
just
ink.
black and white stuff?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of pen and ink. Whether it's Rick Griffin doing poster art or the Brothers Hernandez doing Love and Rockets, I worship that stuff. So pen and ink, black and white, beautiful. And of course, it's punk, so it's like cheap Xerox printing at Kinko's at like 4 a.m, you know, so.
No gradients to deal with.
No, really ugly and like, how many can you give me for $50, sir? Type of thing, you know, begging for extra copies and stuff.
Very cool. So, when does the tattoo bug bite? Does it happen while you're in Florida?
It happens a bunch of times, but it was weird because either I was poor and did not get tattooed, or I didn't like the way tattoos looked because they weren't very good back in the 80s. Like, you know, in high school, I would have never gotten tattoos because I wasn't a sailor or a biker.
Right.
Looked good on them, but I was an artiste, and they weren't doing the masterful art that our peers are doing today. There were times when I'd be wheat pasting for shows. We'd put on shows, too. We'd do straight-edge shows and give the money to drug rehab centers. And we'd be out all night wheat pasting, and kids would stop me, and they'd be like, "You're that guy. You're Johnny Thief, man." And, like, I didn't realize people were collecting these things. They'd steal the flyers. They'd be collecting the fanzines and putting them all over their bedroom. And then they start taking off their clothes. They're like, "You got to do my tattoos. You should get equipment, man. Tattoo me." And, like, they're showing me their naked bodies. Like, "Yeah, I need an eagle across here." And, like, I know what a chest looks like. You don't have to show me.
Dude, let's
I'm
go
cool.
in the bathroom. Give me a quick hand job.
I'm cool, bro. Like, I know what your arm looks like, man.
Check out what my dick looks like.
And not tattooing it. So it was funny because, like, even back then, I knew enough not to tattoo out of a house. Like, I was looking at Florida. Florida was really weird. Like,
how did you know that, though?
Well, I'll tell you why. Because they arrested 2 Live crew in Hollywood, Florida, where I lived.
Okay.
They were cracking down, like, Michael Diana, who drew the Boiled Angel comic, which is horrible. But, like, he went to jail for drawing. And like I was thinking to myself, it's like, man, it must be really hard to be a tattoo artist in Florida with these Christians trying to shut you down left and right. Like, I'm not going to disrespect them. And I didn't know that was exactly the right thing to think. I just came up with that by myself. So
it wasn't an industry person who said, "Hey, Johnny, if you're going to do this, don't do it out of your house," because you really had no brush with the industry yet.
Not yet. Although it was funny because, like I said, I was helping a lot of people out. My house was kind of a flop house. Like, all kinds of people would crash there while I went off to the sweatshop to screen print. I came home one day and someone had used their settlement money to have a tattoo party out of my house. Like, 15 kids got tattooed all day long, including a girl I was hiding out from the law because she was a runaway. And everyone had bandages except me. And I was like, I don't even get tattooed? Like, damn it. So that was really strange. So I had a lot of brushes with tattooing before it started. It wasn't until the year 2000 that I started tattooing. And I didn't get tattooed until then because I was always doing other things with my money, like putting my ex-wife through school.
You know what? I'm going to call that part 1.
That sounds excellent, man.
We're going to call part 1 putting my ex-wife through school. But no, this was awesome, man. It was so we're at like you went a good hour and 27, and I'm going to leave this as is, totally unedited, and we are going to pick it up as I expected. Johnny Thief would be a 2-parter, so.
Just say Johnny Thief has a big fucking mouth.
No, hey, man. It goes
it's okay.
It goes with your head. But, no, you see, dude, I'm the last one to complain about big heads. I have a bad case.
Yeah, that's what your wife says.
I have a bad case of big headia. I wear a size 8 hat. But, no, this was awesome, man, and I want to just thank you for filling in on short notice, and it was a pleasure. As usual, sir. And
it's an honor to be asked, sir.
And I think people are going to get a lot out of this, as they will part 2, which I will hit you up off. You can't even say off air because we're not really on air, so it's like off cast.
Just create the illusion. Pretend it's theater. Yes, we'll meet you later off air.
Yes, I'll contact you off cast. But yeah, no, I'm gonna. It's not listeners, the 3 of you. The no, actually, I'm going to talk a little bit about that when we finish up with John. The second part will not probably happen sequentially, but just look, look for Johnny Thief. I'm going to name the episode, obviously, Johnny Thief Part 1, and it's going to be one of probably 10. But no, probably one of 2, and I won't let him go longer than 2 if I could help it. And no, it's awesome, and yeah. All kidding aside, I probably will have you in for some of the other topics where I think you'd be an awesome contributor.
Right, meaning weight or losing hair or
just being either old, fat, hairless.
First visit to the urologist.
Italian, comic book nerddom.
Scrotum falling down.
Yes, we call that Billy Goat balls. Did you before I close out, because I'll get you in on this one, did you see most of the summer movies or no? Like the Marvels and so on?
I was stunned that they made Guardians of the Galaxy. I keep explaining to people how abstract that is.
That was a yes or no question.
I saw it and I loved it.
Did you see Captain America?
I was stunned on so many levels. Like, how do you get that movie made?
Did you see Captain America?
The second one, yes.
Did you see Spider-Man this year?
Yeah, I don't like it.
All right, easy. Hold the opinions. Did you see Dawn of the Planet of the Apes?
No.
Okay. Did you see Godzilla?
Yes, actually.
Hold on. Easy. And you just said you saw Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we're going to probably get you in on our summer movie recap. That'll probably happen even before part 2 of your dealio, because we're going to have a little roundtable discussion of the summer movies. Did you see Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
No, and I won't, because it's Michael Bay.
Yeah, I'm iffy on that one myself. Today was kind of like we were debating. Eventually, we decided not to see a movie at all. I think we're going to just rent something tonight, but it was like, do we go see Turtles and just round out our summer, or do we just go see Guardians of the Galaxy in IMAX? Yeah, just go see it on the IMAX this time, because it was tremendous. But I'm going to want your opinions on all that. Real quick, just we are going to post all of Johnny's relevant links on the website, www.tattoomentor.com. It'll also be in the ID3 tags for the MP3 file, those of you who know what those letters and numbers mean. But while I've got you, anything you want to plug or say as far as links or websites or...
No, just the websites from the shop. I'm just putting my crew back together after Matt's left and ironing out details. I'm planning on doing some international travel. I'm definitely going to do the United Ink convention next year in Manhattan, because it's great to be back in our hometown again. Other than that, we're still trying to figure out which are the good conventions and who I want to guest with and who I want to get tattooed by. So not sure where I'm going to be yet.
Just for people who may not get to the website or might get the MP3 through different methods, just really quickly, just give me, what's the shop's website?
Shop's website is seppukutattoo.com.
Just spell that for everybody?
Sure. SEPPUKU tattoo.com.
Cool. And Facebook or Instagram or anything else you'd like to share?
We're on all of it, pretty much. Also at the same address. All the tags are Seppuku Tattoo.
So at Seppuku Tattoo on Instagram.
Yep.
At Seppuku Tattoo. Do you do Twitter or you don't Twitter?
I make the Counter Girls Twitter.
Okay.
I put them to work.
And that's also at Seppuku Tattoo?
Right.
No spaces or underscores?
Nope.
And Facebook .com/Seppuku Tattoo?
That's correct.
Do you have individual information, or you would rather everybody just go to the shop site?
Shop site is great until you get to know me and exchange bodily fluids with me.
Okay.
And then we'll talk.
All right. Awesome. That was disgusting. Okay. And all right. So we're going to, well, I could leave you there. So I like looking at you. Lies. No, I just want to. I'm going to just close out with the show info. I just want to thank Zircon Music for our intro, outro, and transition music. ZirconMusic.com, at ZirconMusic. He's all over the place. Link on the website as well. I just want to thank everybody who's going to iTunes. Please go to iTunes, subscribe, and rate. We've got some awesome reviews from some people I know, thank you very much, and some people I don't know who've said some really flattering things. I really appreciate it. It seems like tattooers and non-tattooers are enjoying the show. But the best thing you could do for us, before we add any sponsors or donations or anything, I really want to try and keep it free for you guys. But the best thing you could do for me in the meantime is subscribe via iTunes, hit that 5-star, and put a review. And if you're going to say anything negative, just fuck off. Don't do it. And what else? Everything through Tattoo Mentor, www.tattoomentor.com. I'm on Twitter at Tattoos by Keith. I'm on Instagram at Tattoos by Keith. I'm on Facebook, facebook.com /Keith Caramello. I'm not adding anity. I'm thinking about a fan page. I don't really care. You can always email me. I'm the type of guy you could call. Leave your number, or send me an email. And our email, now that I just reminded myself, is tattoomentorpodcast@gmail.com. Any suggestions for the show, questions about episodes? We've got a lot of cool stuff coming up, both tattoo and non-tattoo related. Like I said, we're going to get into some live episodes. We are going to stream live. We're talking about streaming a wrestling event live and commentating on a wrestling event. We are talking about the Fatcast, the fraternity of fat people who will discuss their vice, which is eating. A bunch of ex-addicts, as if you couldn't figure that out. We're going to have our summer movie roundtable. So a lot of fun stuff, both tattoo and non-tattoo. And I think that's about it. I'm going to just thank Johnny one more time. Thank you, Johnny.
I love you, man.
I love you, brother. Thank you so much for doing this, and I'm going to hit the old music.